Alrighty. Good morning, everybody. My name is Jordan Jean. I'm a junior here at Norwich University. I'm a computer security information assurance major. And really outside of my academics here at Norwich University, I make video games. I count myself as an independent video game developer. But my research here today has been helped and sponsored by the Cyber Leader Development Program here at Norwich University. And the concentration for my internship at the Cyber Leader Development Program is information operations and information warfare. So for my research, I wanted to combine not only my passion, a hobby of mine, mixed in with the internship that I'm doing. And one of the biggest things that came to my mind, especially as of recent, is how much of information censorship and information suppression goes on in the video game industry. And for today, I'll be talking about Tencent. So starting off, we have my presentation overview. This will be all the topics that we're going over today. And we're going to start off with the video game intro, video game industry intro. My apologies. So, video game industry is worth about $138 billion globally, which, doesn't take a mathematician to realize how much money is going into this industry. With that, there are 2.7 billion people worldwide who play video games. That's about a third of the world's population. So with that, there's many people, much money to be made. I made an infographic over here with information that I found on the video game industry from 2012 to pretty much now. And you can see in 2012, the industry was only worth about $52.8 billion. There's video game companies worth more than that today. And in 2021, the fiscal value of the video game industry was worth about 138 billion. So that goes to show. But for today, we're going to be really talking about Tencent and Tencent's, I would say, stake in the video game industry and how much, not only how many companies that they own, but really what have they been doing within the video game industry. Before we get into the big part of the presentation, we're going to do a brief intro of what Tencent is. Tencent is a Chinese tech conglomerate. They're actually the second biggest company in China. They were founded in 1998, and now they're worth about $590 billion. Keep in mind, that's, them as a company as a whole, not just their video game enterprise, which is Tencent Games. So with that, keep in mind. So, yeah, they started, I would say, around the time of the 2010s, going around and buying shares, holding stake in many video game companies worldwide. They've been in the video game industry since 2004, which is significantly less than other companies such as Activision, Nintendo, Sony, you name it. But they are amongst one of the top 3 most powerful video game companies globally. So how did it get to that? Before we do, I had some research questions that I asked myself prior to me getting too in-depth with my research. I asked myself, has Tencent been using its subsidiaries as a tool for information suppression? What is the extent of Tencent's global operations in terms of how long, what is the global scale of the companies that they're owning? And why is it that Tencent has more power than multiple companies that have come prior? Methodology for my research really went over trying to apply real world data and media to my research, because the majority of the case studies I will be presenting have made media attention due to the controversies that have come up out of it. So going into Tencent specifically has been very tough. I mean, from a researcher's point of view, there's a lot to be discovered. From a me point of view, it's very hard. It was very hard to get specific case studies and academic papers that were written about Tencent's information suppression. It's a very niche topic. That's why I'm so interested in going more into depth with this, but there was a lot of problems that arise. But information censorship is definitely something that's not new in the video game industry. It's actually been around since, from what I've seen, the early 2000s. In 2005, there was a journal that was written about how information censorship was distilled in the video game industry to pretty much protect children. So, well, is Tencent doing all of these cases, or have all these companies that are doing cases of information suppression, information censorship to protect the potential minors that could be playing it? Or is it for an ulterior motive? I made a diagram of Tencent and all of the subsidiaries that they have. You can see some big players up here like Take-Two, who owns the Grand Theft Auto franchise, Activision, who owns the Call of Duty franchise, Riot, they own League of Legends, Valorant. So some big players up here. So as we could see here, I have another infographic of the subsidiaries of Tencent. And one of the biggest things you'll notice off the top of, looking at this is that Tencent has a lot of companies that are from NATO countries under its wing, considering they're a Chinese-based company. So that's something that I found was very interesting, especially that there's cases of information suppression within Tencent. But one moment. Alrighty. Next. So we have our first case study up here. This was Blitz Chung, and Blitz Chung was pretty much a case scenario where this young man was showing support for the Hong Kong protests that were going on in 2019. And he not only did he get silenced, but he had to he got banned from the league that he was playing in. It's, globally, there's different rules against freedom of speech, but considering this was just somebody showing brief support for something that was going on in his nation, and it would go against CCP, Chinese Communist Party beliefs. It does stir up some controversy as to maybe why this person was censored. Up next, we have Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War and the Tiananmen Square massacre clip that got removed. There was a 2-second clip from a up-and-coming Call of Duty Cold War, which was in 2020, so not really up-and-coming, but he pretty much happened was it was a 2-second clip. It was ripped off YouTube an hour or two after it was posted, and later on it was re-uploaded with pretty much no context of it. And considering that it's a video game based off of Cold War, the global scale of the Cold War, and they're removing real world events that happen just because it doesn't go, I guess, with maybe beliefs of the CCP, why is it that, this should have been taken out of context? And for my last case study, we have Genshin Impact, and it's censoring words in its chat features, such as, for example, Tibet, Falun Gong, which is a meditation practice.
Testing, testing. Testing, testing. Testing, testing.
So thank you. Chat censorship that would go against pretty much terms or phrases that might be, say, disrespectful to the CCP. And with that being so, I guess, is it because they want to censor chat within a video game? There's case scenarios in the past where there's been terrorist organizations that have used video game chat features such as PSN to to recruit people into terrorist organizations. But I mean, this is not terrorist organizations. Why is it that these words, nations, and practices are being censored? So cutting it close on time right now, so I'm gonna try to get through this as fast as possible. So Tencent has a big stake in the video game industry, as we could see. It seems that, a lot of Tencent subsidiaries and the games that they have been using their platforms of video games as a tool for information suppression and information censorship, which is what we've seen with the case studies today. From one moment. And, it's something that we need to take into account. But the biggest takeaway that I want everybody to get from this is just the beginning to something that could be expansively bigger. I want to go into more of the global, in terms of Tencent owns partial share in Snapchat. There's way more that could be done in the media side of this, as well as video games. I could talk about actual video games that use their platform as a tool for propaganda, information operations. I want to see the grand scale of, is this, this is just the starting point to something that's very big. And with the limited time that I've had with this research, I feel like I'm only scratching the tip of the iceberg as to what's to come. Thank you so much, and do we have any questions?
First of all, great work, and I'm excited to see video games being presented here. When I was an undergrad, I actually studied video game development before I came into federal service, and you'll be surprised how much it comes up. So keep up the great work with that. Second, in relation to information operations, censorship, as we see Tencent start to permeate into American and European markets, where Genshin Impact, Valorant, I saw Valorant on some of the esports computers going on upstairs. But in terms of protecting yourself for your own online persona, what are some recommendations that you provide for personal security if you're playing on these games, or if you want to go talk freely in these environments?
Yeah, that's a good question that you bring up, and I'm well aware that Riot Games, a lot of their clients for Valorant and League of Legends actually do have some sort of spyware in them, which can pretty much go through your computers. And considering that they're under a company that's supported by the CCP, there are some risks that can come up. I would say the biggest way to protect yourself is, this is something that, many people don't have because it's expensive, but have a separate computer for gaming and have a separate computer for doing all your business stuff, schoolwork, anything that's confidential. We live in a world where privacy is definitely at stake, and we want to make sure that we can keep that, because that's all right. But thank you so much for your question. Yeah.
Hello? Okay, cool. I have a bad history with microphones. And anyway, I really like the slide that you had that showed the ownership in all those different companies across those different countries. Where did you get the data for that?
Where I got the data for the company the country of origin for the company.
No, there's one of the slides where it's like their breakdown, like their percent stake in a company
Yeah.
and where that company, like their
So
home
I
country
got that
is.
from a lot of media analysis from different news sources that were reporting Tencent's acquisition of different companies. Also, there are a lot of how would I say, since Tencent is a publicly traded company, they had to
Gotcha.
disclose these. Many of the companies up there were publicly traded, so when they do go under these acquisitions, they do have to publicly announce it.
Yeah, that makes me wonder, like, what Russian companies have stake in NATO country companies and all that. And I hope the MSS doesn't try to silence you again. Be safe.
Thank you. All right. Thank you so much, everybody.